Kia ora, and welcome to Grow Up Runaway, a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition real play podcast. This is a story about a group of young people running away from home. It's going to be cute, fun, and hopeful, but it can also be tough and emotional. Please be aware that our show contains horror elements, violence, coarse language, dark fantasy themes, and children in peril. We hope you enjoy listening to our story.
There's something to be said about growing up. To a tree, standing tall and proud, growing up is the point of it all. To get yourself closer to the eternal, glorious sun is the one and only meaning of life. How lucky a soul must be to find itself a tree without more complicated decisions to navigate. To a beast, growing up is survival. To make it to become an adult, one must overcome the elements, must compete with one's siblings for nourishment, must kill when necessary. But still, there are only two options to work with: mature or perish. A simple choice, even for the dimmest of creatures. To a child of Matt Zemler, growing up is a very elaborate thing indeed. One must, as does a tree, find ways to reach one's stature toward the heavens. One must, as does a beast, ensure survival above all else. But more than these things, one must find other, less direct, less physical ways to grow. What kind of growth does one choose? How does one so small even make that kind of decision? The path of least resistance leads one to adopt the choices of parents, but what becomes of those for whom this is simply not suitable? What destiny awaits those who grow in their own way?
In the forest city of Greenhome lies a band of youngsters who are juggling these very questions for themselves. Greenhome, a wondrous place, built upon, around, and beneath the very trees that grew up before us. A place where all folk and nature have merged into a society of peace, of prosperity, of purpose. Atop the most ancient of trees, hundreds of feet tall, we see an Aarakocra take flight towards the sparkling ocean, ready for her day of fishing. Sinking beneath the canopy, a group of Harengon pass around their sugaring tools, ready to spend their day harvesting sap, a treasured task of their tribe. Beneath them, a trio of colourful frog-like grung hop dutifully between shelf mushrooms, gathering a collection of edible fungi. And further below still, amongst and amidst the giant roots, a family of Thrycreen pass around a collection of arbouring tools, readying themselves for an excursion beneath the earth. All things, all folk, each with a task, each with a place, each ready to contribute to the whole, to make their shared society shuffle forward with vigour and unison. Around us, many different animal-like species set up their market stalls or rush out to farm their flocks or their crops, each of them in a practiced, comfortable routine. Not one of them knows that today is the day. We pull back a little from the hustle and bustle of the grass district to reveal a poster slapped callously on a notice board, a poster that has marked today just so. The poster, scribbled on the back of some tome's table of contents, declares in large emotional scroll:
I'm leaving. Come with? Feeling tied down and held back by your community? Tired of this backwards, closed-minded prison? Meet me under the crooked willow by the S-bend, last morning of spring. I'm out. The Moonlit Wolf.
The author of this poster, true to his word, can be found not far away, where one of the local streams makes its way around a willow tree. This place is much quieter than the rest of Greenhome, for no one is working here. Through the veil of hanging leaves, we see a young firbolg seated on a low branch, leaning back against the main trunk. A straw hat covers his eyes, but his cow-like ears flick restlessly, aware of approaching footsteps. Liv, would you care to introduce us to our firbolg adventurer?
So this is Lycan. This is mechanically a firbolg that we have reskinned to look like a Highland cow, including the shaggy orange hair over the eyes, the big floppy ears, and the fluffy hooves at the bottom of long, lanky legs. He's 19. Again, lanky, cannot emphasize that enough. His horns, the Highland cow horns, are actually broken off, so they're just like kind of jagged nubs coming out of his like shaggy hair, and are instead slung on either side of his hips, like in these two leather slings, and have been kind of serrated to be sickles. He's wearing a lot of like studded leathers, which is made of, the studs are made out of bone. It looks like teeth that have been embedded into the leather. He carries a very tall staff that has a crooked kind of question mark shape, where there is kind of a dangling single bone or tooth tethered to the apex of that question mark and hangs in the middle. He has a big old longbow slung over one shoulder, and nestled in his lap is a small, fluffy pig. Kind of looks like a cross between a small pig and a sheep. Curly, almost knotted sheep-like hair on a little piggy body, with a yellow ascot on his neck.
That is so cute. Lycan can hear approaching footsteps. What is their reaction to this?
I think in true dramatic teenage boy fashion, I think he will chuckle wryly to himself. Be like, hey, I see that my invitation has borne visitors. Ha! I knew this town wasn't so stupid. He'll turn off of the branch and come thump down onto the ground and lift his hat up expectantly with his truffle buddy, which is the name of the animal, tucked under his arm.
And the footsteps lead toward the willow tree, and then through the willow leaves steps another figure. This one with feathers, large eyes, and a pair of sleek wings on her back. She is an owlin. You would recognize her to be an owlin. She steps forward to join Lycan under the tree, brandishing a copy of his poster in one hand. Poppy, would you care to introduce us to this owlin character?
So this is Althray, who is also known more colloquially as Ellie to her friends, family, and foes. She is a big, kind of, I guess, lumbering barn owl-looking owlin. She's a relatively stern young woman. She is 18, and she is a part of a very religious family. It seems that her whole race in this particular community is very religious, and she has a pretty standard kind of what would you call them? Robes, as though, have you seen Da Vinci Code? Because they got those robes.
Yes, we've all seen Da Vinci Code. Please carry on.
Perfect. It's that sort of tunic looking thing. She's got something that looks similar to rosary beads hanging around her neck. Very modest. And she's looking quite disappointed at Lycan holding this poster up.
Oof.
Did you put these up?
Lycan immediately hesitates at having received not the positive feedback he was hoping for. I think that Lycan does kind of steal his resolve and says, yes, I did put this up. I did so in great urgency, in fact.
Urgency? Do you know what an influence you are to some of the kids around here? This is incredibly dangerous.
Listen, I'm not responsible if somebody lets their child wander out of the woodlands. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. If someone's choice is to leave, that's not my influence. It's me opening a door.
opening. I'm gonna have to go and tell some people about this. And she looks around for the closest person of authority to show this poster to.
I think Lycan does a big like sweep of his arms and kind of backs up and says, I put it up publicly to be seen. You can go and tell people and tattle on me like some young child that you yourself are so concerned about. But to be honest, I put it up publicly for a reason. I don't mind if people see it. I want my intentions to be known. If people choose to come with me or not, that's their business. I'm going either way. And if you'd rather somebody snuck out of this village in the middle of the night to never be remembered or seen again, then that's on you. But I would rather go with a goodbye, if you don't mind.
Look, I honestly don't care if you leave, but why are you putting these posters up encouraging others to do so? You can, leave on your own accord, that's fine. You're old enough to do that. I don't understand why you're trying to get others to leave with you. Are you too scared to leave alone?
This dark expression comes over Lycan's features, and his ears go fully flat, and he loses a lot of the gusto and kind of holding himself up, and he kind of just sort of stands in a very I'm gonna say maybe vulnerably non-performative manner, and looks at you and says, I'm trying to leave because I tried to do the right thing, and it is villainized here. Because I have a moral code and a loyalty to something that I believe in. And I have learned that the community that you so value and that I so valued does not value its weakest and most vulnerable members, not in the way that it proclaims to. And I have no interest in holding myself in this space when there is other bigger things out there that I plan to hold accountable.
And with this, a sort of silence hangs over the both of you as you stare at each other, each waiting for the other to back down. And then, Althray, you hear quiet, careful, but footsteps approaching from behind you. How does Althray react to the idea that somebody else is coming?
She turns towards the incoming creature and holds out a hand, pointing directly at them I told you! See, look, there's just a child!
And with that, a third youngster, shorter than the first pair, steps through into the speckled shade under the crooked willow. Cat-like, with fur and large sensitive ears, you can see that they are a juvenile tabaxi. Norma, would you care to tell us a little about our new friend?
Okay, so the tabaxi is Melodia Porsong. She is very kind of gaudishly dressed in a very sparkly, brightly colored purple dress. Everything is very glittery and shiny. She's wearing a leather jacket. You can't see, but on the back there's a logo that says Paws of Thunder on it. And she's kind of while she's quietly sneaking towards the group, she's kind of sashaying her hips a little bit, she kind of knows what she's doing around here, and swishing her long, very flowy hair around. Yeah, she is very, very fluffy. She is grey with little black tufts on her paws and her feet, and she looks like the kind of person who's never done any work in their entire life. She's also carrying this large book that is upside down, so we can assume she doesn't know what she's doing with this book. And she has a harp attached to her back. And she kind of just wanders over, shaking her hair around, holding the sign in another hand as she quietly kind of comes towards the group. So, I'm looking for the person who wrote the sign. Hi, you guys probably know who I am already because of my dad. But, please, can we keep the fanfare to a minimum? I'm trying to be discreet.
Sorry, who are you?
Yeah, I don't know who you are. You're welcome.
What?
You're more than welcome.
What?
Lycan steps forward, kind of tries to brush past. Is it L3?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. You are more than welcome. In fact, please, no, come step forward. It's a pleasure to have you. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, this never normally happens. I'm just not used to this kind of response, but I guess that we're like out in the outskirts of town. I guess people out here haven't really heard. Hi, I'm Melody Porsong. You might know my dad, Riff Porsong of the band Paws of Thunder, and at that she turns around and like swishes her hair out the way so you can see the big Paws of Thunder logo on the back of her jacket as she swishes back around. So like I saw this sign and you know what? I'm so over how people are always asking me to do things around here. So I'm just ready to go.
Norma, just as a aside, if you were to equivocate Paws of Thunder to like a real life band in terms of their like how well known they are, what band would you say they are?
I mean, clearly they're like the AC/DC. They were very popular a long time ago. They're just not that quite popular now. Times have moved on.
Lycan immediately says like, oh, you know, I think my dad listens to that.
Oh.
How old are you, Miss
Porsong. Yeah, I'm
Porsong.
15 years old. I'm practically an adult, I know.
Lycan cringes.
Yeah. Do your parents know where you are? Do they know you want to leave?
My parents. I mean, they're the ones who kicked me out. They just gave me this book and said I have to go on my quest now because I'm 15 years old, like all the other cats do. But you know what? I'm not that mad at it because I really wanted to go anyway. It's kind of my decision to leave. So yeah, like they kind of know where I am. I mean, they said I'll be fine. I think.
You Tabaxi are told to go on quests when you're only 15?
Yeah.
Leave this community?
It's very common around here. Like all my friends have already like done it and stuff. It's just I'm what they call a late bloomer. So I thought it's finally my time to go and do things for myself.
Just as a little background, usually when they do these quests, they're here in Greenhome. They don't like go out the gates and like out into the world. They do like go and do good deeds for their neighbors and things like that. She's obviously taken this completely the wrong way, or maybe intentionally the wrong way.
Lycan probably personally would not know this context and immediately like steps up fully, looks at you imploringly and says, "You've been kicked out, asked to leave against your own will, taken away from things that you treasure and a life that you know and care about. Yes, this is why I'm leaving too. You're absolutely welcome to come. I mean, make sure that I'm looking at your sort of garb, and I mean, you look fabulous. Maybe a heavier coat, or like some sort of
skirt.
Maybe, well,
A
hey,
longer
no,
skirt.
don't.
No, I kind of like it this short. I mean, I was thinking shorter, but this is kind of reserved for me.
I have no comments.
Melodia, your ears twitch as you hear the sound of another set of approaching footsteps. They're smaller, maybe a bit more uncertain. What is your reaction to somebody else coming up behind you?
I turn around and I'm ready to be like, oh, more fans?
Through the cascading leaves of the tree, you can see a small grey trunk snake its way through, offering no words but a few light sniffs of the space before the kid attached to the trunk spills into the little area underneath the willow tree that you have here. Unsurprisingly, this is a Loxodon. Jules, who have we here?
So we have Thistle Tuskbright. Now Thistle is an incredibly little sort of presence. You would sort of describe Thistle as short and stubby, but she's trying to be like graceful and elegant like her parents, or her family, or the generation of people that she comes from. All the Loxodons walk with such purpose and like a stoic intent. So she tries to do that, and she manages for like 2 steps, and then you just see a massive bundle of energy explosion that kind of just overtakes her, and she just sort of runs excitedly for a few steps, but again, before she remembers that she's supposed to be stoic and, like the other Loxodon. She's trying to remind herself of how she's supposed to behave. And you see her sort of walk into this clearing. She's got Her big kind of ears usually are sort of flapping happily widely, but because she's nervous about where she is and who is here, you see them kind of curling and unfurling, sort of like a nervous kind of twitch that's going on. And she's got big wide eyes. She's like taking in everybody here. She's definitely younger looking than the rest of everybody as well. Sort of a long dress with a big pocket in the front of it, and you can actually see a giant book sticking out of the front of that pocket. And she's got like a crystal around her neck that she's also sort of nervously touching constantly. A little cute little lacy blouse and, you know, long dress. Yeah.
So cute. But Althray is going to stare at Thistle, eyes wide, mouth wide open, and goes, no. Walks over, picks up Thistle. Do your parents know that you're here?
Ideally not. That's part of running away.
My parents don't really pay too much attention to where I am at any given time, if I'm really honest.
Althray, so she's not exactly listening to Thistle because she's aware of the, I guess, the way that the Loxodon are looked at in this community, and she's like, oh my god, there's no way that this tiny little Loxodon can go missing. I'm going to be in so much trouble. And she turns back to Lycan and goes, this is what you've done.
Lycan looks at you and says, good. I'm glad that this has shown that there is in fact a need and a want here, because sometimes people are trapped where they are and they don't know that there is another option to leave if they want to. I don't hold any regrets here.
So I read the sign. I'm good at reading. It's kind of like a really good thing I can do. My family, you know, the scholars, that's kind of their whole thing. And anyway, I'm getting a bit excited and ahead of myself. So I read the sign where you are going. It wasn't on there. And when you were leaving and when you might be coming back wasn't on there. I feel like it was missing a lot of information.
Lycan looks a little like, oh yeah. at that, being like, yeah, I didn't put a lot of stuff on there, did I?
You really forgot the full itinerary on the scrawled angry note that you put on the bulletin boards.
So that I could go stand moodily in a tree. I had to hurry. I was running out of time. I go up to Thistle in Althray's arms, or little fluffy owl hands, and I kind of crouch down so that I'm at eye level with Thistle, and I say, you said that your parents don't notice you most of the time.
Well, that's usually because they've got their, trunks buried in their books. And, well, I'm not very good at that. I tend to sort of get accidentally in the way. And then there was that time I set the book on fire that one time. And then they, banned me from the library, So they don't really see me because I'm not in the eye line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're quite physically little. I understand.
Yes, how old are you, Thistle?
Oh, I'm 12. That puts me in double digits. I'm old enough to go anywhere.
You know what, Thistle? I completely agree.
So you guys are going? We're really going?
Yes, we're going home, actually. And Althray starts walking, still holding Thistle, out, at arm's length.
No, I am not. I'm a big girl and I can go where the others go. And I am sick of being told that I can't do things. I'm going to choose something myself. Put me down.
Althray, please do not take a choice away from someone.
Althray sighs deeply, puts Thistle on the floor, puts her hand on her head, and turns to Lycan and says, like I said, you're welcome to leave. It's your choice. But these are just kids. Can you look after them?
He kind of looks at the people around him. He looks at Melodia, he looks at Thistle, and then he looks at Althray and says, I've never had that really good kind of motherly instinct, but I don't know, seems like you'd be pretty good with kids. Maybe you should come. Keep an eye on him.
Where are you even going?
He shrugs. He points out into the forest and says, I have my own reasons, but I just want to go. Out and beyond, to everywhere and anywhere and nowhere. And maybe if I wander directly into the den of the woodland spirits, then maybe I'll have accomplished something I'm looking for. But otherwise, I just want to go.
But the danger, it's so dangerous. Have your parents not told you about all of the dangerous things that are out there?
Have your parents ever told you about the wolves that linger on the edge of the woodland?
Yes.
That linger everywhere in the dark? Do they ever tell you that the people who are most likely to encounter them are the shepherds who wander those same woodlands and care for the truffle buddies? And he holds up his little guy and he says, and do you know that if they attack you and your little guys, that you're not actually allowed to kill them because it's not part of the natural order that you've been put in? And did you know that if you don't care because they're killing you or your little guys, that you get kicked out?
And a silence falls over all of you as you hear this kind of dark expression of thought from someone that you've kind of seen around. He's a little older than all of you, and you've always seen him around, and you're learning something completely new about Lycan, this sort of older boy that you know. And under this silence, I'd like everyone to roll the first skill check of the campaign. Please go ahead, guys. Roll me a DC 14 perception check.
Okay. Well, Althray rolled 15.
I got a 17.
Ooh, me too.
I have to turn off my electronic dice because a dragon just ate my dice on my screen and it was very loud because I rolled a nat 20.
Oh!
I forgot how loud Thimberchord is on D&D Beyond.
The fact that it's Thistle that rolled the first nat 20 on the first roll is so incredibly beautiful.
This tiny baby.
Oh, I can see what I'm in for as a GM on this one. Okay.
Oh boy.
So, Thistle, you hear it before everybody else, but everyone does eventually hear it. You hear another set of footsteps approaching, but this set is different. They're heavier boots falling on the grass. You can hear a light creak of armor and some kind of like walking tool, perhaps a stick, also touching the ground in a pattern. Somebody else is approaching the willow. You can't see them because of the sort of like veil effect of the willow leaves, but somebody else is approaching and stops just on the other side of the leaves.
I definitely squeak and my ears are like flapping like crazy and I'm like, are we expecting somebody else? Like, as soon as I hear it.
Hopefully, that is indeed the idea. I want to get as many people on board as possible. I want as many people to understand that we need to go as possible. Whoever wants to should have that freedom. And I say it super loud.
And Althray, as Lycan is saying that, puts her hand over his mouth and turns towards this figure and goes, No, we're not planning anything. We're not leaving. There's nothing happening here. Hello there. How can we help you?
From the other side of the willow leaves, you hear someone say, "Come out, please." Hang on, I want to do a Texan voice. How do you do that in a Texan voice?
Come out, please.
Come out, please, with your hands up and your guns akimbo.
Come out, please.
I think Thistle immediately grabs like the skirts of the robe of L3 and just kind of grabs in and leans in and is like, I'll go out if you go out.
Oh yes, we're definitely going out. And then I immediately swing open the willow leaves in front of us so that we're all in full view of this creature.
I step slightly in front of Melodia just because Melodia is also younger, and so just giving a little bit of a protective, like, hey, hey, it's sort of a bold energy this stranger's coming in with.
Yeah, but then Melodia's like pouring at your back going, what are you doing? Get out of the way. What are you doing?
I'm so sorry.
The four of you step out of the dome sort of made by these willow leaves into the morning light. You find yourselves face to face with a female Leonin. She's tall and tan and wearing a uniform belonging to the local peacekeepers. She doesn't have a mane like her male counterparts would, but a streak of hair travels back along the middle of her head down her armored back. She has her arms crossed impatiently, and in her hand she carries a catch pole which is a stick with a loop of rope hanging from the end. Go ahead, everyone, roll me a DC 12 history check to see if you know who this is.
Very fittingly, Lycan does not.
Yeah, Althray, despite thinking she knows everything, absolutely does not know who this person is. Just a big scary Leonin.
Thistle's no idea.
Melodia's not sure.
I mean, heck, sorry.
So none of you know who this is.
Lycan goes, who are you?
The Leonin steps forward and says, "Excuse me, I'm Truancy Officer Zara, and all of you are truant right now." And with that, you suddenly know who you're dealing with, because truancy officers are the scourge and sworn enemy of any child who wishes to take a day off of chores, school, or temple. As a TO of Greenhome, this truancy officer would know all of your schedules, and so she's very likely that she knows that you're not supposed to be here right now.
Althray quickly jumps in front of everyone and goes, "Well, no, I know I'm meant to be at the temple, but I did see these posters around, and I was very curious and I was very worried. So I came here to see what the hubbub was about, and it looks like Lycan is trying to get people to leave."
You know, I'm going to jump in, even though you did just again try to tattle on me and throw me under the large stampeding horde. You know, Althray was just following her curiosity and was trying to do the right thing, so don't be too harsh on the extremely good influence of a person who's just manages to be here. And you know, Melodia is supposed to be out on a expedition or some sort of personal quest, I think. It's part of the whole shebang. And Thistle is just a little lady.
Got banned from
and
the library for burning a book, remember?
got
I'm not allowed
banned from
in.
the library for burning books. Exactly. And you know me, right? Where do I have to be?
Truancy Officer Zara is like looking through her notes, and she's just kind of smiling to herself, sort of good-naturedly, as you give this little list of like, well, actually, no, we're allowed to be out and about. And she kind of looks at you and she says, "Come on, guys." Hang on, no. Texan, hang on. "Come on, guys."
I love like the change in tone that happens.
Come on,
I'm catching Liv's accent and then mimicking it without meaning to. I'm like, Texan, yeah, that's Scottish. "Come on, guys. I don't want to be here any more than all of you do, so why don't y'all just wrap this little meeting up, go back to where you're supposed to be." And she points at Althray and says, "I'm pretty sure you're supposed to be helping the parish with the candles." And you points to Thistle and says, "Despite the fact that you are not allowed in the library, the entire school building is not the library. You are definitely late to class." And looks at you, Melodia, and is like, "I don't buy this whole personal quest thing. I know that you're supposed to be doing brass cleaning this morning, so you go get over there whenever you're ready." And you, and like points to Lycan and looks at her notes, and she looks kind of confused and goes, "Do you even have a flock anymore? What is happening there?"
No, I don't have a flock anymore. Lycan gets very surly.
Althray, well, she's been blushing this whole time because she does feel a little bit bad for kind of just ratting Lycan out, but as soon as she realised that it was a truancy officer, she freaked out. But she turns her head kind of creepily, because she's an owlin, and does like the full 180 and looks at Lycan.
Lycan does not enjoy that. Lycan goes, "Ah!"
She's like, "Wait, you don't have a flock?"
No, I don't. And I think, personally, that if trying to do your job to the best of your abilities can have it taken away from you, then I don't think it's worth trying if there's other things you want to do more, because you may as well take that risk instead. And he sounds kind of a little bit raw as he's saying it. You can tell this is like him saying not a thing where he's trying to convince other people, but the thing that he like genuinely believes. He steps forward and he puts his staff like out in front of the other people, between the youth and the truancy officer, and just sort of puts a little barricade there. I don't think that you should be able to tell us what we do with our lives.
Zara puts an eyebrow up, and you might not know her personally, but she doesn't look like she can't be that much older than Lycan. Like, she is maximum 20. She is just barely a little bit older than the rest of you. And she points to the badge that she has on her armor, which is the Peacekeeper's badge. And she says, look, I got myself a real good gig here, shooing you kids back to, school and your chores and bits and pieces. You're not leaving because I ain't ruining my gig so that you can go explore your sad feelings and stuff. So come on. And she walks forwards and she puts a hand on your staff, like she's like meaning to like move it out of the way or take it away from you.
Lycan wrenches it back out of her grip and says, don't touch that.
Okay, all right, I won't touch it. But come on, let's go. I don't want to have to use this. And she like sort of brandishes the catch pole at all of you, which is a pretty classic weapon wielded by the truancy officers. When kids are trying to escape, they do sometimes have to like lasso them a little bit to bring them back where they need to go. Yeah, and so she's moving in and is probably only a moment away from grabbing. Likely one of the smaller ones of you, either Melodia or Thistle, to like pick them up and take them. What do you do, Party?
Well, L3 sees the look in Zara's eyes and immediately picks up Thistle and goes, no, you're right, I will take Thistle back to school right now and I will return to the temple. Thank you very much, Officer Zara.
Roll me a deception check.
Deception?
Is it deception? Or do you actually mean it?
Oh, I mean it.
I mean, the podcast is about all of us leaving, so...
Get there, we'll get to it.
Okay, so let me ask you, Althray, are you lying in this moment?
So, I'm not. Althray is, at this moment, she's terrified because she knows that the truancy officers are, the authority. She has been taught her whole life to respect authority. And since Thistle is the one at her foot right now, she's like, oh no, this one is going back to school.
Don't worry, Penny, I'll get L3 back in.
Oh yeah.
This will be my mission.
And in L3's head, in response to that being like, is just a voice that sounds incredibly like Thistle's, only Thistle's mouth isn't moving. And it just says, oh yeah, good idea. If you get me up higher, then I can really do this well. And like, that's what you hear in your head. And you start seeing Thistle's hands glow. And it looks like an icy blue color is starting to... It's not... Like, Thistle doesn't really have hands so much as, like, elephant trunks that kind of somehow still grab things. But, yeah, you start seeing the flat start to glow.
Yeah. Little nubs.
What the... And I hold you at arm's length, like, turning my head away. And you're, like... I would say, like, inches from Zara at this point.
Yeah. And I cast Ray of Frost on the ground to make the ground slippery. Oh my God. And then I'm like, run, Lycan! Come find me later, I'm your new best friend!
Okay, I guess I'm going to roll a dexterity check for Zara to see if she slips in this ice. By the way, using magic is not common. Like, not a lot of people, especially at Thistle's age, would know how to do this. So this is quite a surprise to all of you. Even though some of you might know some cantrips and some like low-level spells, very unusual for somebody like Thistle to be able to do this.
Penny, are we allowed to say badass?
You're allowed to say badass.
Oh, Lycan can definitely say badass, right?
Kate is a badass!
Yeah, you're learning some things about why Thistle might be a little discluded from Thistle's family right now. They are not this magical either. Like Loxodons and her family are book studiers. They might be a bit magic, but like they're mostly scholars.
Truancy Officer Zara rolling 9 on her dexterity check. So she does indeed slip on the icy grass that you have created, creating a little opening. What do you guys do?
I'm going to stumble backwards, and I am going to say to literally everybody, now's your chance. If you actually want to do something with your life, if you've ever questioned authority, if you've ever wanted to just see what's out there, say so now, and I will help you get out of here.
I'm gonna wait to see what the children say.
And I say to you, come on, let's go. Come on. I'm just like excitedly like pulling, at you. Come on.
And L3's head is turning in all different directions, very like an owl. I'm gonna do that a lot, by the way. I've just realized because owls' heads can turn so much.
Melodia was about to give the truancy officer a piece of her mind, but she's like really looking angry, and then she stops and she's like, all right, and starts like trying to run the other way. But it's not as much running as like kind of awkwardly skipping because she doesn't run.
No running. I see that Melodia does like begin to skip forward, and that Thistle is like eager. And I look at Althry and I say, "Are you really gonna stop them?"
I can't just let you all go by yourselves. You'll get hurt.
Big grin, huge grin. He reaches a hand out and says, "But come with us.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, take a chance. You've got your faith, right? Bring it with you."
Gods. All right then, come along.
Yes! Grab the hand, sprinting.
The four of you sprint from the willow tree, sort of giggling in exhilaration at this idea that you are actually going. And Truancy Officer Zara like stands up, brushes herself off a little bit, and goes, "That was a mean trick. All right, hey, come back here!" And begins to chase after you. Party, you're running towards the Grass District, which contains a marketplace, a grain mill, schoolhouse, like lots of different. We've all played Everdell here. Imagine any of the constructions in Everdell. There's all that kind of stuff running through the whole city ahead of you. Truancy Officer Zara, being older and more athletic than you, is going to gain on you if you run straight for the gate. Where are you going to go?
This is so strange, but the very large, powerful, and fit Leonin appears to be gaining.
And Althray, who does not run, is like, "I can't. Oh, wait a second." And she starts to like flap her wings.
Have you still got me with you?
If you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, and I'm completely delighted, and Thistle's little ears are also flapping, like trying really hard.
Lycan is going to try to scout a path ahead.
Okay, Lycan, roll me a survival check.
I'm very good at those, but hopefully it does not roll very low. It was almost a nat 1, but it's a 21. Yay!
Lycan, ahead of you, you can see a few options. On the ground level, there's a lot of shops and stalls and things to hide on. If you go up one level to the tree trunk level, where there's a lot of like boardwalks and stuff, there's also like a few additional places to go. There's a bakery, there's a hammocorium, there's the firehouses up there.
There's a what? Sorry, a hammer.
A hammocorium, a place where they make hammocks.
Oh,
Mr. Megorium's Hammocoporium.
Of course, it's so obvious.
sorry, can it please in fact be Mr. Megorium's hammer?
So the tree trunk level, while higher and you'll need to jump down, probably gives you the benefit of, what's the word, like that you have to follow the boardwalk paths, and which means that you might be able to shake her off. So what would you like to head towards? And are you staying together, or are you going to split up?
Just because Althray will be flying, I think it will be a split up to a certain degree. Well, we're going to be on different levels at least.
Althray, take the baby. I've got the pop star. And I grab Melodia's arm, and I'm going to take the low path.
Baby.
All right, so you've got a few options ahead of you. Melodia, there is a grain mill. The school building is not far from here, as well as the kindergarten where the even littler kids are hanging out. The Scholars Tower, where a lot of the Loxodons live, is nearby. There's a chapel where you might usually find Althray. What would you like to head towards?
Yeah, at this point, my hand's being dragged, so I'm just like, all right, let's go up this tree thing.
You're going to go to the tree level, the next level up as well?
We're going to go up, I think.
All right, Althray, what would you like to head towards? There are a couple of like nearby locations that you could go to try and lose Zara, who by this point had you not flown up, probably would have caught you by now.
So you said that the school and library and stuff are nearby, right?
School is on the grass level. The Scholars Tower, which is probably the closest thing to a library, is also on the ground floor. So yeah, you can fly back down if you would like to. This is also your home as well. So you can all feel free to just tell me what's ahead. I just was thought of a hammocorium and then invented some stuff to go around it and stole some buildings from Everdell. So you tell me where you're going to hide.
Hammocorium sounds like a great time.
It really does.
I feel like we have to go there.
Yeah, is the Hammocorium on the tree level? Because if so,
We're going
Melodia,
there.
we may as well just completely abandon ship on the ground level and just go up.
I was just going to say, I think I'd be obviously flying, holding Thistle, and I just kind of carrying Thistle a little bit like a baby, and I'm just like, surely you need some of your things on our way out. Do we need to stop anywhere?
Oh, no, I packed all I need. And she's got like a book and like a pouch with like bits of twigs and feathers and dirt and stuff in it. And you're like, I don't know.
Alfie doesn't.
I mean, it's spell component pouch, but like
Yeah.
maybe you wouldn't know that. Like, but she just shows you like a sack with like random stuff in it. Yeah,
Copper
that's
wire,
all I need.
a bunch of bat droppings.
Some guano.
Yeah.
Althray isn't convinced, but she trusts that she herself could probably help Thistle with like surviving, so she's not too worried. She's like, all right then. Have you ever seen that building before? And she's referring to the Hammocorium.
I mean, yeah, but I've never been in there.
Yeah.
The Luxodons don't usually use hammocks.
Yeah. Maybe we'll lose Zara if we go there.
Melodia, I think if we go to the Hammocorium, we'll lose the Leonin. Leonins never think to go in the Hammocorium. They never use the hammocks. They're too serious.
At this point, you're basically dragging Melodia. She's real tired. She's like, yep, that sounds great. I really need a nap.
So you head towards the Hammocorium.
We all
Yeah, Mr.
do.
Gregorium's Hammocorium.
At different levels.
You both meet there and you're like, oh, well, I guess no more splitting up. And you turn around, you can see Zara like climbing one of the many like vine and rope ladders that leads up to this level. She could see you, and all four of you, both your groups, head inside the Hammocorium, where Mr. Megorium is, of course, taking a nap because this is a place where you make hammocks. He's got to test all of them. But there is a workshop here. There's a sales floor. There's probably, a bathroom and a back door somewhere. What would you like to do?
I slam the door closed, drag one of those heavy, like, ground hammocks where they, like, you can set them up in your backyard.
Oh god, yeah. They're
Drag
real
that
heavy.
over the front door, and I'm not very strong, so I might need help.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, roll me a strength check.
Would somebody like to help me?
Thistle's there, like, little tiny elephant, like, pushing.
Althray will help.
I mean,
as
roll
well.
me a strength check with advantage if you have help.
Okay, it was a nat 20.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Well done, Thistle. You did so well helping.
Thistle, thank you, you saved me.
So yeah, you're absolutely able to drag this. I mean, it is a hammock, but it's got like a base on it, like a wooden base over to the door, and lock it. And right as you do that, Zara starts trying to push the door. She's very strong, but it's going to take her a second to be able to sort of, push the door with enough force to move this thing out of the way. And she's like,
You can do it.
Say howdy
You have to say howdy.
to get you into it. Yeah.
howdy. She bangs on the door and she's like, hey, no one leaves Greenhome. Where are you even going to go? Flat Rock?
Wherever the wind takes us.
Althray is not listening to Zara at all, but she does notice Melodia finding herself a comfortable spot on a
Yeah.
hammock, and she's like, oh god.
So tired.
And Thistle's like, no, that's perfect. What we should do is we should lead our footsteps out the door like we went out the back and then hide in the hammocks at the top. No one will see us.
I've always heard that what's his name?
Megoria.
Mr. Megoria I've always heard of his super secret cool trap door. I wonder if I can find it. Is this how improv works? Can I just say that there's a trap door?
Should we ask him where the trapdoor is?
Well, then we have to wake him. That could go badly.
And we do all know that he only speaks cryptically, so I don't know if we'd be able to understand his riddles.
That's true. He does only speak in rhyming riddles. That is true. And he has a big trap door, and I think he plays the accordion. He's so
Let's not
cool.
wake him up then. Let's not wake
Melodia's
him up.
looking really excited about the idea of waking him up, and she's like, yeah, I mean, this sounds like a good time.
Is there a back door?
There definitely is a back door. You'd have to go sort of, past the sales desk into the workshop and then out the other side. There probably is a back door somewhere, yeah.
I grab the baby and I vault it. Let's go.
Like Thistle's been like trying to stamp footprints into the ground. So,
There's like these very vague circles in the dust. Althray grabs Melodia. She's like, no time for a nap.
No. Melodia's like, why? away as she's being dragged out.
Yeah, Melodia, do you resist at all? You trying to hold on to the hammock, or you just let yourself
Yeah,
be
she's
taken?
like clawing to the hammock, but the hammock's kind of ripping behind her from her claws.
That's
She's
incredible.
like, no.
You completely destroy like a yak's wool hammock
Yeah.
as you leave. And Mr. Megorium, if he were awake, will probably charge you for that, as he's famous for doing, because he needs money to make more trapdoors.
Mr. Megorium, he's beautiful. He speaks in riddles. He has an
Yeah.
accordion. Mr. Megorium's
He's very frugal.
trapdoor emporium is his other venture.
And Melodia whispers, "Oh, my dad will pay for that later. I'm sorry."
Luckily, he's asleep. I'm going to say that he is a GIF, so he is a big hippo man who's just asleep in one of the, big mega hammocks that's built to hold the heavier species that live here.
I love Mr. Megorium.
And so we run out the back door, never to see him, never to speak to him, never to hear his riddles ever.
No, his riddles.
We'll be back.
See his accordion collection. Yeah.
And as you hit the back door, you hear a large clang coming from the sales floor that you just left, as Truancy Officer Zara has successfully banged her way through, and you hear her shouting behind you, "I'm not letting you little jerks mess with my gig! Come back here!"
Okay, so we're on the second level. We're in like the higher tree level.
She no longer has line of sight on you, although she is still chasing you.
Okay, but we are on the second level.
That's right.
I turned to Al3. If you fly, how much just sort of weight can you carry?
No, I cannot carry you like
No,
it.
I mean like, it's
Massive.
like if you glide, and I just sort of drag you down, and we all just sort of drag you down.
Not
That's
a
what we're
parachute.
like a paper aeroplane.
No.
What Poppy won't tell you that I'm going to tell you is that I had a very stern talk to her about picking a flying character, and I was like, hey, you can't fly if you're wearing medium or heavy armor according to the rules, which means you also can't really carry a person while you're flying.
What about while you're falling?
With style.
Falling with style.
I think it just breaks all of us, right? Like, we just all get broken, probably, is what happened.
Or maybe everything is fine.
Oh my god.
I turn to Melodia and I say, you're a sort of musician. You've got all that star power, right? Do you think you could cause some sort of big distraction and we can get out of here? Is there something you could do on that front?
And Melodia kind of like laughs to herself and she goes, "Distraction? Me? Absolutely." And she like walks back into the hammoctorium and starts ranting and raving at everybody. And she's like, "Excuse me, everybody. Hi, I'm sorry, but like your hammocks are terrible and I'd like a refund on my hammock."
Yes, get Megorium to attack the Leonin by implying that the Leonin is
And she's like
is
yelling,
dissatisfied.
"Excuse me, do you know who my father is? He's very famous, okay? You sold me a faulty hammock and I need it replaced now with a full refund. And I'm keeping the hammock."
So just to be clear, you walked back into the hammocorium.
Yeah.
Where the Leonin is, just for the record.
Yeah, so Zara immediately catches you. With the catch pole, you get the little... I don't even need to roll for this. You, like, walked into her range. You immediately get the little lasso from the catch pole around you, and you are caught by Truancy Officer Zara.
I'm going to poke my head in. I'm going to add on to what Melodia was saying. And I want to say, what's his name again? What's the dude? The hippo?
Mr. Megorium.
Mr. Megorium.
Mr.
Megorium.
Mr. Megorium. This... We were trying to buy a hammock, but this Leonin won't let us kill her.
Look at what it did to that hammock. It completely destroyed that yak's wool hammock.
I would like to use the power of childhood tomfoolery to get Mr. Megorium to attack Zara.
Yeah. Can we deceive him?
Okay, yeah, Mr. Megorium opens one eye, sees a kerfuffle happening in his store, and does a big hippo yawn. Roll me a deception check to see if you can get this, like, grown adult to just start attacking people in his own shop.
We're giving Melodia the help action, right?
This is your action that you're making, Lycan?
What I was trying to do was add on to what Melodia's scene was.
Oh, I see your point. Okay, well then, Melodia, go ahead and roll me a deception check with advantage.
Cool. Oh. Okay. I got 10. Oh, not good.
With advantage?
So does that mean roll it twice?
Yeah.
Ooh. 22.
That sounds about right. Because you're the bard, so
Yeah.
your deception
I was going to
should
say
be...
we got this. So yeah, 22.
Nice.
Mr. Megorium wakes up, like looks around at this kerfuffle that's happening in his store with a bunch of kids, and one of the people in the town who's supposed to catch tardy kids, and given that you rolled so well, decides that this is absolutely not for him today, and he pulls on one of the ropes near his hammock, and both of you fall down a trap door out the bottom of the store.
Yes!
Oh my god.
Yes, baby! That's what I'm talking about!
Melodia and I guess Zara, can you roll me acrobatics checks to see if you're able to, like, how you're gonna land here?
Okay. Oh, nat 20. 23.
Okay.
Wow.
Truancy Officer Zara is wearing this heavy armor. Like, it's not plate armor, but it's quite, she's dressed for a ruckus. And when you both fall through the trap door, you are a kitty cat wearing a skirt and light clothing. So you're able to, grab onto the bark of the tree and slide yourself down. You are still within the loop of the catch pole, but you land on your feet on the grass level, and Zara lands on her face, not far away, but she's not actually holding the catch pole anymore. What do you do?
At that point, she just kind of starts dragging the catch pole behind her and skipping away as she shakes her hair around because she's like, I see. And is kind of trying to make her way back towards the group.
Althray runs towards her, it's like, no, and just gently undoes the pole from around her body. It's like, no, we leave this here. Come on, let's go.
Okay.
I grab Thistle and we sprint down to meet them on presumably the ground level is where they've gotten to.
I love that Thistle's just not run anywhere.
Still making footprints.
People just keep dragging Thistle
Safer. Pick you up like a football under my arm and I start sprinting.
Honestly, she's delighted. Every single time, she just is you can see big, wide, delighted eyes for just being involved. This is the most, a friend experience she's ever had.
This is the first thing she's ever been included in.
Yeah.
My heart.
Althray, you are the most level-headed of us here. Why don't you just roll a quick insight check on Truancy Officer Zara?
Oh, right. Oh, that is a 22.
Nice.
You realize pretty quickly that she is quite athletic. She's got armor on. You're going to need to, waylay her physically, tie her up or get her caught or locked somewhere. Otherwise, she's going to keep trying to catch you. So you realize that just getting away from her is probably not going to be enough because she'll just keep following you. You're going to need to do something else.
I'm going to turn to Thistle. I'll get down on my knee. So I'm eye level. I'm like, Thistle, you did that thing with the ice before. Is there anything else you can do?
Oh, I can set things on fire.
Oh, that is not good. All right.
And does a big grin and is that was certainly some of the problem.
It would not solve all problems. And she turns her head towards Lycan.
And then, in your head, and goes, and I can talk to people and try and convince them of things. I'm actually pretty good at convincing people of things because it comes from inside their head. That all comes from inside your head. Yeah.
I'm just like, good gods. Okay, well, I think if you put some ice down, that will, she'll likely slip over, and then you can use your little mind trickery to kind of freak her out a little bit. But we will need to hide as soon as we can.
We could just tell her that she totally won and we're totally going to school and go hide in the school, but I know a back door.
I think, okay, so she's face planted. We have 0.1 second to do something,
yes.
Right?
I imagine this is run and plan talk.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there a huge cartoony bush nearby or some sort of human-shaped or animal-shaped lamp I can hide behind?
Yeah, is there things we can hide behind near us?
You live in a forest environment, so yeah, absolutely. There are bushes, there are trees, there's basically you live in harmony with nature here at Green Home. So yeah, absolutely there are bushes that you could hide in.
Okay, I want to hide in a nearby bush and I want to kind of prepare an action. Go about doing that.
Are we all hiding in the bush?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's roll ourselves a group stealth check. The DC is going to be 12.
My stealth is so good. But I rolled an 11 because of my bad roll. I have a +5. Damn it.
Yeah, I got 18.
Althray got a 17.
Oh, I got a 4. Not good.
So that is a 50 total, divided by 4 is 12 and a half. You just beat it.
Oh, God.
Truancy Officer Zara is running towards you, and despite the fact that there are these big elephant ears sticking out of the bush, has not noticed you yet.
All right, Thistle, do the ice thing, and I'm gonna use my staff to trip her up even worse.
And like Thistle just nods and then like reaches out that trunk again. It starts glowing blue again, and she grabs like the crystal around her neck, and this time you actually see there's like a little wee like spark from the crystal as this happens, and then it kind of goes icy on the ground again.
Thistle, can you roll me an Arcana check, please?
19.
When you grasp this crystal around your neck, you feel like something behind you, not one of the people that you're with, but you feel a warm presence behind you. You're not really sure what it is, but you can feel like a light breeze as though it's displacing a little bit of air around it. And then when you shoot your ice, it's much more potent than it would normally be. And it does create a sheet of ice, but it also encrusts Truancy Officer Zara's boots in ice themselves, so she'll have to either find a way to get them off or basically slip everywhere she's going for a little bit. She starts to slide.
Oh, wow. Thistle, that was really impressive. That's so good. You did such a good job.
Yeah, Thistle's got big wide eyes like, that's never done that before.
You're so talented. And then as he's saying that, he's going to jab out the really long staff and is going to try and hit Truancy Officer Zara really hard in the head.
Althray would like to try and stop Lycan from hitting Zara on the head because she thinks that that's not necessary. We can get away. Yeah, I'm like, no.
Lycan reaches out his pole at head height, and Althray reaches out, grabs his arms, and shifts them down so that they're at foot height. Zara slides along this patch of ice with her ice boots, sees the stick, and goes, "Not bad, kids." And then she hits the stick and goes like tumbling, into a huge blackberry bush that's on the other side of this ice and disappears momentarily.
Oh god.
Run! Go, 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 go!
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up Thistle and we run.
Yeah.
In the general direction of the gate, I would assume.
And inside the truancy officer's head, you just hear, "So sorry, but look, we really did want to go. We asked nicely."
Grab nearby hands and start sprinting through the clearest line of sight towards the wood line.
There's something to be said about growing up. These local rapscallions of the great forest city of Greenhome, having dealt with their very first obstacle, now have a myriad of choices ahead. As the four whoop and cheer and high-five on the topic of their escape, I cannot help but wonder to myself regarding the path ahead. What destiny awaits those who grow in their own way?
Ka kite, thank you for listening to Grow Up Runaway. You can keep up with the show by following our social media. Check out linktr.ee/growuprunawaypodcast for the platform of your choice. You can support the show and join our community Discord through our Grow Up Runaway Patreon, but the main show is and always will be free to enjoy, even if you can't do that. Thanks for wandering with us. See you on the road.